Boom, shaka, laka, baby. How are we doing? Welcome back to another edition of Kevin and Zachary X. I'm your host, Zach Bollinger. The Baltimore Ravens have beat the New York Giants 35-14. And Laura, yes, you can. We can say the B word, blowout. An absolute blowout. Jackson 5. We got Rashad Bateman career game. Tez Walker, Jessica and Kieran are doing well after the game. So, nothing but wins going on right now for the Ravens. It's always a great game when you see Lamar Jackson dancing on the sidelines in the fourth quarter as Josh Johnson takes over. So close to another perfect passer rating. Lamar Jackson was absolutely phenomenal today. After the second play, lost fumble, it felt like, oh boy, is the team going to come out rusty? Are they going to kind of hit this wall of, hey, they got to get back in rhythm? Took a few drives, to really get back into full swing. Obviously, they didn't go for it on 4th and 1 when I thought they should have, but eventually, with 3 minutes, 18 seconds left in the first quarter, Lamar Jackson to Mark Andrews, a tale as old as time. First of 5 touchdowns. He went Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman's 2-touchdown day. Tez Walker gets his 21-yard touchdown, and Justice Hill rounds out the Jackson 5 with a 27-yard screen pass to the house. Honestly, just one of those games where it had its moments towards the beginning where you were kind of like, okay, why are they doing this? Why are they making this closer than it should be? I predicted at the pregame show that I wouldn't be surprised if it went into halftime 17-10. Going to halftime up 21-7, it felt like pretty much from that point on, the Ravens were in complete cruise control. Defense was getting stops when they weren't absolutely shooting themselves in the foot with penalties. We'll get to that. But really, besides penalties, once again, a rather clean game for the Ravens. You felt at least offensively after that first fumble. Really, the offense settled in. Felt like the first game in forever where we weren't having a big play called back every other drive with a penalty. So offensively, the penalties did well. The Ravens did well offensively with limiting penalties. Defensively, especially that one drive where they had 4 penalties for 41 yards. Half of the Giants' yards on the touchdown drive came from penalties. And it really, it could have been even more because one of them was half a distance to the goal on a 15-yard hands to the face. So it could have been upwards of, I think, like 50 yards on that drive. It really was. It really was frustrating. It was in a weird, I don't want to call it frustrating. I want to call it annoying. I'm going to call it annoying because obviously you felt good about the Ravens. You felt good about the position they were in, especially towards the end of the game, the final few drives. The game was in hand. It was just running out the clock, getting some guys some reps here and there, and the penalties just continued. Brandon Stevens had one pass interference call that I think was questionable. I think it was uncatchable, but Brandon Stevens was getting picked on once again. It felt like when the Giants needed a big play, they threw to the receiver. Brandon Stevens was covering down the sideline, and they either made the catch or it was pass interference. So annoying on that side of the ball. Laura, I agree the penalties were horrible. So a little bit of annoyance on that side of the ball, or in that aspect of the game, I should say. But really, besides that, just what a perfect game. And British Raven, it truly was brilliant. Ravens' strategy was admirable. Justin Tucker can't miss field goals if you don't have to kick them. JT looked so much better on PATs, though. I agree. Justin Tucker, and we can get a little bit more with this with Kevin when he joins. Justin Tucker, although I know I put out the tweets and I make jokes about it, that, oh, Tucker 5 for 5 on extra points. That's a confidence thing. He went the whole game without missing. Five times he kicked it, 5 times it went through. Can somebody, I know the final, I think 2 or 3 kickoffs Stout did. I'm not sure the earlier ones, but Jordan Stout getting some time kicking off. Maybe that mechanics, tweak that a little bit where Tucker doesn't have to worry about kickoffs as much. He can focus solely on extra points and field goals, which I would not mind at all. But overall, it was one of those games where if you're Justin Tucker, you got to feel good. This was a massive get-right game for him. And yes, it did not include field goals. He went 5 for 5 on extra points. But if you're going to only need 5 extra points, if you offer Justin Tucker to kick 5 extra points, that means the Ravens are doing something right. I'm feeling pretty good about the Ravens' chances if Justin Tucker's kicking 5 extra points. So in that aspect of the game, you felt really good from Justin Tucker's aspect of, hey, you wanted the confidence. You wanted that to grow somehow. It didn't need to necessarily be he went 6 for 6 on field goals. He was 3 for 3 from beyond 50. 5 for 5 on extra points is a start. You baby steps. 5 for 5 on extra points, it's a start. Get the confidence in. Because as we've talked about before, I don't necessarily think it's a mechanics thing for Tucker. I think it's a confidence thing. I think it's a mental block right now. So getting that confidence back, having him go out there knowing, hey, I'm Justin Tucker. I can make any single one of these kicks. That confidence is what's going to carry this team, hopefully in special teams unit, far into the playoffs and not have to rely on, hey, we got to score touchdowns because these guys can't put 3 on the board. I think we're slowly going to see that confidence rise, and it helps. Man, it helps when you can kick 5 extra points because it's, as simple as it is, it's easy. Just put it through the uprights and move on. So extremely happy to see that from Justin Tucker. But let's move on to the main story. Lamar Jackson, 21 for 25, 290 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, 154.6 passer rating, also added 6 carries for 65 yards. It was a game where Lamar Jackson, outside of that second play fumble, he just had it working. The throws to Rashad Bateman were on the money. He hits Aguilar on the money. He hits, obviously, the play to Tez Walker on the money. It felt like this confident Lamar Jackson again. I know he got a lot of flack over the previous 3 games because 2 of them versus the Steelers and the Eagles, he didn't have his best performances. He didn't. It was he looked off throwing. He wasn't, really, it felt like taking the rush lanes as people were talking about. He just didn't seem right. So at this point, I know it's the Giants. People are going to sit there and say, it's the Giants. It's the worst team in football. Listen, you got to beat them. And if it means that you get confidence back, then you get confidence back. And that's all. That's what you're looking for. Because the Ravens, and I talked about this in the pregame show, this was a get-right game. This was a game where going into it, coming off a late bye, you wanted to say, okay, you lost to the Eagles last week. You had the bye. Now go in there. You got Steelers, Texans, Browns, final 3 games. You want to get hot going into those final 3 games. So you go out there. Lamar has a nearly perfect day. Zay Flowers over 50 yards. Rashad Bateman, a career game. Nelson Aguilar getting involved. Mark Andrews, few catches for 24 yards. Isaiah Likely getting involved. Obviously, Justice Hill getting involved. It just really felt like something where the entire team had their moment of, okay, we're getting going. We're getting going. We're starting to move in the right direction. Consistency is moving forward. So from that aspect, even though it is a team where you look at and you're like, this is a very banged up Giants team at that. You don't even have guys like Dexter Lawrence and stuff. So yes, while it is still a lesser opponent, that's why we said this was a get right game. This was a game where if the Ravens backpedaled out of there, if they barely escape, they win by, 10 points, they scratch and claw at the end, it really it would have been tough to sit there, and you still would have had questions about, hey, is this team going to be good enough to make a run in the playoffs? But after today, you get the confidence rolling. You're feeling good. You got that nasty taste of that loss from Philly. You get that out of your mouth. It's over with. It's done with. Goodbye. You're 1-0 this week. Now you move over. Now you move to the next week. We're on to the Steelers. Short week, playing Saturday. Got to get right. Got to get right. Continue this confidence. Continue what you took today, the success you had today, and move it forward because you're going to have to beat Pittsburgh. If there's any chance at winning the division, you have to beat Pittsburgh. It is as simple as that. If you don't beat Pittsburgh, you're not winning the division. There's no chance you win the division. They need to get it right, or they've gotten it right. They've gotten the momentum. They have to ride it. You have to ride the momentum from here. If you're unable to do that, then it's going to be tough. You can't just keep relying on going week to week. You got to start stacking. A.J. Brown just scored on the Steelers. I love it, A.J. A.J. Brown's been asking for the ball. He's actually been demanding the ball. So that's good to see from them. Good for A.J. Brown. Good for A.J. Brown. And they need it. They need it. So the Eagles are up 10-3 over the Steelers. If the Steelers were to lose, they go to 10-4. The Ravens 9-5 have an opportunity next week to go even it up. Even up the division standing. So massive game for Ravens fans to little hate watch going on with the Steelers and Eagles game going on. Would love for the Eagles to go out there and just simply find a way to get this one done. I know it's the Steelers. We'll talk about the Steelers. Just they always seem to find a way. But we're hoping today is different. Eagles up 10-3. Let's go back a little bit to the Ravens game. I want to talk about the defense because it was one of those weird games where the penalties were, like I said before, annoying. Let me look up the official. So the Ravens had 12 penalties for 112 yards. For the team that leads the league in penalties, that is exactly what we were hoping they wouldn't do coming out of a bye. You were hoping that they get something cleaned up. You were hoping that they could get something together. The undisciplinedness, the pass interference, just the mind-numbing penalties where it feels like, especially defensively, they're shooting themselves in the foot. So once again, I'm going to say they need to clean up the penalties. I feel like a broken record because I feel like we say this after every single game that they need to clean up the penalties, but it's true. Overall, they get what was the final? They get about 450 in total team yards, 170 rushing yards, 275 passing yards. So just a good, solid game offensively. Defensively, like I said, a little annoying with penalties, but it was another decent showing. Another decent showing. Once again, I understand. It's the Giants. It was Tommy DeVito. It was Tim Boyle. I know. But we've seen this Ravens defense, especially early in the year, get exposed by guys like Gardner Minshew. We've seen Jameis Winston throw for 500 yards, it feels like, against these guys. When I say it was a get-right game, it wasn't just for the offense. It was continuing to stack for the defense. So Over the past few games, Ravens allowed 18 points to the Steelers, no touchdowns, only 23 points to the Chargers. That last drive and first drive were, last one was garbage time. First drive was good, but besides that, defense settled in. Eagles game, for the most part, the Ravens defense really hung with them. You felt like that they were sticking there, but unfortunately with missed field goals, giving the Eagles short fields, they were able to make something, eventually break the defense. And then today, only 14 points against the Giants. I would assume that is the low on the season. No, they gave up just 10 to the Bills. So what's it mean? It means that they're once again heading in the right direction defensively. You should only give up 2 touchdowns. And yes, I know the last touchdown by the Giants was a, garbage time-esque touchdown with just 4 minutes left in the game, or 10 minutes left in the game. But at the same time, at the same time, you saw things from the defense that you really loved, including Nate Wiggins. Nate Wiggins has been fantastic. Nate Wiggins has looked as advertised every time he's gotten the opportunity. Every single time that, especially today, I know he had the one pass interference at the end, but especially today, Nate Wiggins did not look overmatched at all, even when he was in one-on-ones with Malik Neighbors. He's playing with this confidence, with this speed right now that just – he has that makeup of a number one. You see it in his build. You see it in his quickness. You see it in his instincts. The guy can't catch. I'm going to just say it. He's not the great at playing the ball in the air, catching wise. Definitely not a receiver. Definitely more of a corner than a receiver. But especially when we just talked about Brandon Stevens struggling this year, getting his head around, struggling with the pass interferences. He's kind of panic grabbing. Having a guy like Nate Wiggins, you picked him in the first round for a reason. And it's all coming together down this stretch, heading into the playoffs, because the biggest thing that we've talked about with this defense is limiting the big plays, getting to the point where you're not getting beat by the big plays. And that's what Nate Wiggins allows because of the speed, because of the makeup speed. He doesn't get beat over the top. You can play up, you can play tougher defense, you can play more physical defense, because even though he's not the strongest, he's not going to get beat over the top. He's playing fast. He's playing confident. So you put him on one side. You got Marlon on the other. Hell, you move Marlon to the slot because I know they're not getting rid of Stevens. You have Tre'Davious White over there. It just feels like this secondary, or Darius Washington interception, he's looking great. Kyle Hamilton. I mean, we have our differences on the travel attire for this week from Kyle Hamilton. Had to put his jersey in a 1-game suspension. Kyle had another great game. It genuinely feels like this Ravens secondary is starting to put it together and starting to get to the point of what we kind of hoped that they would be. You always assume or hope that Marlon Humphrey's going to return to that all-pro level that he was a few years ago. He has. You were hoping that Kyle Hamilton would continue to rise as this next – I don't want to call him this next generational player, but this next star in your defensive backfield. He's done exactly that. Brandon Stevens hasn't taken that leap that you kind of hoped he would. But our Darius Washington, obviously Marcus Williams, you never thought Marcus Williams would start being healthy scratches. Our Darius Washington comes right in, gets it done, honestly, it's been a godsend for this Ravens secondary. It just genuinely feels like they're starting to put it together. Then you also have guys like Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith, it looks like Roquan Smith again. The past few games, Roquan Smith is looking like Roquan Smith. He looks faster. He looks like he's flying around a lot more. He's getting to the ball faster. It feels like last year's Roquan Smith all over again. Guys like Travis Jones, Matabike. I know Matabike had that one roughing the passer. Beeks had a good game. It felt like the inside guys really dominated, especially on those fourth downs. Man, that the quarterback sneak and then the one halfback dive, the Ravens were absolutely all over. The Ravens were all over it from the start. So it really is great when you see the guys, especially up front, when those guys go out there and are able to dominate the way they are and kind of control the line of scrimmage. That's where you're going to see this Ravens defense take that next step. And Joe, we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see kind of how it goes. We're going to reconvene. The committee's going to reconvene this week, figure out if we're feeling the Tucker jersey or the Kyle Hamilton. Might have to rock Tucker for the Steelers game. We might have to rock Tucker for the Steelers game. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know. We're going to have to see. We're going to have to see. The committee's getting together. So overall, I see the Bills and Detroit are 14-7. Anything else? I'm looking at the Steelers game real fast. I see the Steelers are driving into first quarter. British, it is just me. It is just me, but we have great meetings. We get a lot done. It's very productive, and it's a lot of fun. So, yes, my jersey selection committee is just me, but we have a fantastic time. There are cookies. So it's a lot of fun. People rave about it. People rave about it. Let's go one up, one down in the chat. My one up, I'm going to take the easy one. I'm going to take the easy one. Lamar Jackson. Jackson 5. If I had to go to a different one, I'd probably, honestly, in order, my one-ups would be Lamar, Rashad Bateman, and then Nate Wiggins. Really happy for him. Even Ardarius Washington, you could put it in the one-up. So super stoked for those guys. One down, I'm going to continue to say penalties. Penalties are really – it's the Giants, so that didn't impact them. But 12 for 112 yards, again, you are not going to be competitive or able to win consistently against good teams when it matters the most if you are giving up that many yards for penalties. The Ravens just simply can't. Oh, Brennan, you're right. Tez Walker. Tez Walker's also my honorary one-up. I'm actually going to put him number one. And the Gary Williams stole my lawn furniture parlay hit. Justice Hill 4+ receptions and over 25 yards. So, British Richardson, Monken remembering what a Tez Walker is. One down, Zach Orr forgetting what a Bo Braid is. So, yeah, I think Tez Walker is definitely one of the one-ups. It was Torrey Smith-esque. Oh, was it only 2.5 receptions? Okay, so even better. Even better. He had like 6 receptions or 5 receptions, so he killed it. It really was just great to see Tez Walker get his opportunity. He made a great tackle actually on special teams, and you're kind of hoping like, okay, reward the man. You know, go let the man get some offensive snaps. I saw him check in. I thought he was a complete, and maybe he was just a decoy that they ended up having wide open. Thought he was a decoy, didn't think he was getting the ball there. When they panned over and I saw Tez Walker wide open, I almost fell to my knees. I was in shock, almost blacked out, all of it. It was absolutely incredible. And, man, so much happened today. Yeah, Mark Andrews also now is the most touchdowns ever for the Ravens. It really was. So much happened. We had Jackson 5s. We had the career day from Rashad Bateman. Tez Walker gets his first catch, his first touchdown. He got Mark Andrews, now the all-time leading touchdown scorer for the Ravens. Justin Tucker, 5 for 5, #back. These are it was a pretty good day in the office. I'll say it. I'll call it like it is. It was a pretty good day in the office for the Baltimore Ravens and really everyone. Justice Hill has continued to just be one of the most underrated players on this team. Not only what he does in pass pro, but the fact 5 receptions for 61 yards and a touchdown. He's just unreal. He looked unreal. And it was awesome to see him show, just get those moments is how I should say it. Because obviously not every week is Justice Hill going to get 5 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown. But each week he's stepping up in pass pro. He's putting his nose into these, 300-pound linemen, these blitzing linebackers coming off the edge. He's putting his head in almost every single one of those blocks to make sure Lamar's okay, to protect Lamar. He's one of the most underrated players on this team. And, I mean, hell, it didn't result in anything because of the fumble, but the opening kickoff return by Justice Hill was incredible. Sets the Ravens up well. This was a great game for Justice Hill. And, man, there's so much happened today. Lamar Jackson over 6K too. Yeah, for his career, 6,000 passing yards for Lamar Jackson. What a day for Baltimore. What a day for Baltimore. If you had a milestone to reach in this game, you most likely reached it. Joe saying Dixie Cup Kevin coming in. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. We're going to give him like 5-10 more minutes. If not, we're going to see what happens. But he's got a million things to do. After these Ravens games, Kevin is the busiest man on earth. Okay. Put in the comment section right now. I know, once again, I've talked about just the Giants. But scale of 1 through 10. How are you feeling about this Baltimore Ravens team? 1 through 10. 1 being this team sucks. They shouldn't make the playoffs. The year's over. Screw it. Throw it all out. 10 being I think this team wins the Super Bowl. I'm going to go 8. I'm gonna go 8 for that because I think there's still a lot to improve on. I think this team has the talent. I think they have the potential. The penalties have to get cleaned up on both sides. Penalties are massive. They need to get cleaned up. And then after that, it's just, you can't be having these bad games, like they did against the Steelers and the Eagles. So, really those 2 reasons are the things keeping it down. But I'm going to keep it an 8. I think overall, I'm feeling good about this Ravens team. And when you say his name, he just shows up. He's always living in the walls. Welcome to the show, Kevin Oestreicher. Kevin, big win for the Birds. How we doing?
Yeah, it just kind of felt like a wire-to-wire kind of cool Ravens victory. I guess not at the start because Lamar fumbled and everyone's like, "Oh my God, here we go again." But after that happened, things kind of got under control after the first quarter. I maybe was expecting more out of the first quarter, but other than that, they did what they were supposed to do, which we can't always say when the Ravens play bad teams. So, I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's the Giants. It's the Giants." Yes, it is the Giants. I'm not trying to say, "Oh, the Giants, Super Bowl contenders. Wow, what a good win against a good roster." No, the Giants are terrible. They have an awful roster. And Brian Dable is one of the worst coaches in the league, in my opinion. But, I mean, you'd go out there, dominate by 3 scores, and set yourself up. I mean, if they had squeaked out a win, if they had lost, it kind of derails a lot of your momentum you would have tried to get. But now you have a good win. And, again, this Pittsburgh game coming up is the biggest one of their year.
Yeah, it really is. This Pittsburgh game, the AFC North is on the line. And not for Pittsburgh necessarily, but for Baltimore. If you're the Steelers, if they lose next week, and I think if they win out, they still get it. Assuming, let's just say they lose to the Eagles right now, just in this hypothetical. This for the Ravens is the biggest, coming up. And that's why I said beforehand, this was a massive get-right game. Like, people are going to say, "Oh, it's just the Giants." Yeah, it's just the Giants, which means that you needed to go out there and have a Jackson 5 and do all this stuff and prove that, hey, like, this is why we are a threat, why we can go out there and run the table. Because if I said before, if they backpedaled out of this game, if they barely escaped, you're sitting there going, oh my gosh, this team is, I don't know what's going on. They needed a strong victory for you to go, okay, let's get some confidence back. And it felt like everyone's oozing confidence after this game. Lamar, Rashad, Justin Tucker, the defense. Weirdly enough, the only guy that you can look at the stats and go, not his best game is Derrick Henry. But if you watch the game, probably 6 or 7 times he got like a 10-yard, or I guess 5 times he got like a 10-yard gain. Like he would just get a casual 7 to 8-yard gain. I mean, it's not like they stopped him. They just didn't have to use him as much as they have at times.
Yeah, and I thought that, again, the Ravens understood who the Giants were. I mean, obviously the Giants came into this game with, one of the worst. I think they were the worst, I think, run defense in the league. But their defense is decimated. You have Thibodeau, you have Brian Burns, and literally no one else. Like very much literally no one else on that. And they've lost guys during the game too. So, I mean, their corners couldn't match up. Their linebackers couldn't match up. And Lamar made him pay. Rashad had a couple of on that one touchdown, he had his guys looking around for a map. Get that guy a map. Like, it just felt like there was
going.
Yeah. I mean, there was no way the Giants were going to be able to keep up with the Ravens. And that's why I had said really all week they were poised to go out there and make a statement. They needed to. And now you have 2 games coming up with Pittsburgh and Houston. Going to be tough ones. But to me, I think that this was the perfect game because, you could really just, after the first quarter, you honestly could sit back and do your thing. So,
and that's why I said earlier on this, it felt like really once the Ravens went up 21-7, you were like, oh, okay. I'm not going to lie. For me, it was when they were up 7-0 and the Giants tried to quarterback sneak it and the entire Ravens defense just pushed everyone back. I was like, oh, okay. So we can, if push comes to shove, just overpower them. So it did, like you say, it felt like from kind of not technically wire to wire, but for a good majority of it. Probably after the first quarter, you're feeling good. And hey, I mean, a lot of just kind of moments today where storylines, you felt like so many storylines being written. I think the most important one, people talk about one-of-a-kind talent, one of those things where you don't see every day. Every time he touches the field, you just feel sparks fly. Obviously, talking Rasheen Ali, Marshall University, 8 carries for 32 yards. Hang the banner, Kevin. Hang the banner. That's right. They should have let him run it so that they got the touchdown. I can't believe they didn't. I was like, stop being sports. Stop promoting good sportsmanship. Let Ali get the touchdown.
You know what? I blame you for Keaton Mitchell's downfall.
I know.
I blame you. I feel like you were preying on this. I feel like you were, and that is disrespectful.
When we drafted Keaton, I was over.
He was not drafted.
When we signed undrafted,
come on.
when we signed Keaton Mitchell undrafted at ECU, it was like one of those things where you just saw the highlights of how fast he was, and you're like, "Oh, this is gonna be fun."
Oh yeah.
I said pregame, I was so glad he was inactive today because him plus MetLife Field, I was like, I would just prefer we not do that.
And luckily, not a lot of injuries. I think Trey White went in. I think he came back though. Trey White came back. Kyle Hamilton had to leave, I think, right? But he came back. And
Kyle Hamilton had like one of those things where he
always seems to go out and then come back in games.
Yeah, which if we could not do would be super dope because all the time I just see Kyle dramatically lying on the ground holding different parts of his body and I'm like, it's over. I'm like, the season's done. And then he just like lays there and then he just gets up and walks away and you're like, okay, Kyle, like let's get a little let's show something.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. Dan Skipper just caught a touchdown for the Lions. Trick play.
Love that.
The Giants.
Yeah, what were we talking about? We were talking about
Rashid Ali, the second coming.
yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that with Keaton Mitchell, it takes a lot for some guys to come back from injuries.
Yes.
Like Keaton, when he came back, was less than a year removed from a torn ACL, and obviously, like he feels good enough to go back out there. I feel like with some of these guys, and look, I'm a Nuggets fan. I don't know if you knew that, and
Really?
yeah, it's shocking. I know. And when Jamal Murray tore his ACL, it took him 2 years to really fully get back. Like obviously, he won the championship the year that he came off, and he was great in the playoffs, this, that, and the other. But it takes guys time to trust their bodies again, coming off of a serious injury like that. Especially, I mean, I just still sometimes can't even get that replay of his injury out of my head. Like it was that like brutal to watch in real time. And
yeah, Kevin. Ooh.
Yeah, not great. But I also see where we're turning this in Yankees hate watch. No, we're talking Steelers hate watch now.
That's what I said. I said we're a little hate watch going.
Yeah, British Raven and Mason talking about it. Oh yeah, 16-3, pending actual, hopefully now 17-3. Steelers. Man, I'm so out on the Steelers. Their defense is good. Russell Wilson is not. And I get they don't have George Pickens. That's big. And if he's not able to play next week for the Steelers, I think the Ravens win that game pretty handily. Now, again, it's Ravens Steelers, so can you really predict a handily win by either team with how weird those games get? But George Pickens is all they have on offense outside of Najee Harris. And Pat Frymuth is good too. But Mike Williams, Calvin Austin, Ben Skoranek, Van Jefferson, like none of if you have to rely on those guys and not George Pickens.
If George Pickens out there, the offense is done.
And they weren't even. I mean, the first game they weren't even good against the Ravens. Like the Steelers' offense is not good, and so if the Steelers lose to the Eagles, Ravens beat the Steelers, they're tied for the. I don't know what tiebreaker would come. Is it? I think it's conference. Is it AFC or division? Record?
Well, first is division, and then it's
right.
Which
so
they would.
The Ravens are 2-2, 2-2. And the Steelers, they have all their division games now. Are they also 2-2? Or are they 3-1?
They haven't lost a division game yet. Oh, they lost to the.
They lost to Cleveland.
Yeah, so I think they're 2-1 because they've beat us. They beat Cincinnati, and then they lost to Cleveland.
Yes. Because then they have Baltimore and Cincy to go, so they're 3-1, I think, right?
Yep, 3-1 because they just beat the Browns.
Yeah. Yep. So I guess technically Pittsburgh would still have the tiebreaker. Yeah. But then you have to play the Chiefs on Christmas for Pittsburgh, and that obviously now could be minus Patrick Mahomes because apparently he's week to week now. But we'll see.
He won't be.
All I'll say is I'd much rather play Cleveland in week 18 than Cincinnati. That's what I'll say about that.
Yeah. Cincinnati's going to be playing for their life. They're going to be fighting for their life.
Maybe.
Kevin, just kind of real fast as we about Lamar Jackson doing Lamar Jackson things once again. I mean, 154 passer rating, more touchdowns than incompletions. I feel like we've said this like 3 other games this year. Just how good of a season is this guy having? Like, just what are your thoughts, man? Like, this is just special. And what's crazy is he's not going to win MVP, which I'm okay with because go win the real trophy. But this is the best version of Lamar Jackson we've seen. He's had, I would say, probably he's had bad games here and there, but just overall consistency throughout the season, throwing wise, I feel like this has been his best.
Yeah, I mean, this is. I mean, we were wondering when he was going to have, because last year we're like, oh, this is the best we've seen Lamar. When is he going to surpass this? And here we are a year later, and we're like, oh, okay, this is now. It's like do-over after do-over after do-over. No, this is the best. No, this is the best. No, this is the best Lamar Jackson we've ever seen. I'm not counting him out in MVP. I mean, obviously, Bills get a big if they hold on to beat Detroit here.
I think Josh Allen's about to get his 3rd tush-push touchdown of the game.
Are they on the 1 right now?
Yeah, they just got a 64-yard pass on the first play of the drive, and then there was a roughing the passer on top of it. So they're at the 1, at the 3. Never mind, they're at the 3.
Still could happen.
Yeah.
Man, I see everybody's talking about Mahomes' injury, and they're like, the Chiefs training staff is currently finding something to sacrifice in the locker room as we speak.
Yep, it's gotta be. It's gotta be.
I don't think he might not play for the rest of the regular season. The only way that he plays is if Buffalo gets like super hot on their tail, which could happen. Like after this game, their last 3 games are literally Patriots, Jets, Patriots. Like, I don't think the Bills lose again. So the Chiefs might be in some trouble because are they 1 up? No, they're 2 up now. Well, no, I guess technically 1 because
Well, it would be
Bills have the tiebreaker.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, technically 1 up.
It's two in the loss column, but 1. If the Bills win 2 of their last, if the Bills win 3 of they don't lose again, and the Chiefs lose 2 of their last 3, then the Bills will get the 1 seed. And the Chiefs, I think the Chiefs need the 1 seed now because you want to rest Mahomes. So
I'd rather the Chiefs get the 1 seed. I don't want
to. If the Ravens win the North, then they would probably play the Chargers.
Jack Settleman put out there.
What did he say?
He said Ravens will host and win the AFC Championship this year. He says they win the 3 seed, they beat Buffalo.
I see.
And then
the Chiefs to get knocked out
by the Steelers. And he says Ravens Steelers AFC Championship.
Man, the AFC is so wide open. The NFL is so wide open, if we're being honest. Maybe not as much as baseball was this past year.
Although it's so funny because it feels wide open, but then again, I'm like, are we just overthinking this? And the Lions are just an insane team. But then right now,
there's so many injuries.
They're trying to get pulled by the Bills, who we whoop. So, like, you never know.
Yeah, they have so many injuries. But if the Ravens get the 3 seed, they'll probably play the Chargers round 1 because the Steelers will get the 5 seed, and the Chargers will get the 6 because the Steelers beat the Chargers earlier in the year, so they have the tiebreaker. And then if Buffalo gets the 2, yes, it would be Bills-Ravens in Buffalo. And then depending on if, Pittsburgh wins or Houston or whatever, it's either going to be Chiefs, Steelers, or Texans in the AFC Championship game if Baltimore gets them. So
you're telling me
crazy. We're less than a month away. Or I guess now a month away technically, but still. We're almost there.
Were we not just at Camden Yards?
I mean, technically, we kind of almost it's been 2 months now. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, this has been fun. Like, I feel like we just covered opening day, Kevin. I feel like me and you were just out on the concourse doing our post opening day recap.
Man, those were the times.
Yeah,
they won that game too. I'm glad we got to do it and win.
Yeah, that would have been rough.
Yeah,
that would have been real rough. Yeah, but final thoughts, Kevin.
Big win. I mean, they did what they had to do. Good teams go out there and beat up on bad teams. And we've kind of had to question the Ravens in some of those bad team spots, especially with their losses. But, even though the Giants aren't a good football team, and I'm not trying to say they are, you did what you were supposed to do. And that's the most important thing.
Exactly. Get right game. Go out there. Get right. Get
all the momentum, because that's what you need. You could not afford to go out there and lay a goose egg and barely escape New York, because then we're sitting here having the same conversations we were after last game of, okay, you're not feeling great. The Ravens had 12 penalties for 112 yards, and nobody cares because everything else went well. Still some things to clean up, Kevin. Still a lot of things to clean up. You had all around a fun game. Lamar Jackson, we got Jackson 5. Lamar Jackson surpasses 6,000 passing yards. Mark Andrews all-time leading most touchdowns in Ravens history. You then have Rashad Bateman career game. Tez Walker first touchdown and catch. Rasheen Ali first carry, kind of dog. Just Ardarius Washington interception. Nate Wiggins looks incredible. It felt like if you were going to have a complete all-around game, you wanted it to be now. Grab momentum and go take it the rest of the way, Kevin. That's all you can do.
Yeah, definitely. Did you see I pulled a U I hit 10,000 on Lockdown Ravens. I did a 10,000. Because you did it for your 100th episode on Ryan Rifkin, so on the Ryan Rifkin show.
Got
So
to,
I'm
man.
like, hey, 10,000 subs.
When are the Dixie Cups coming? The people have been
It's
asking.
ordered. I felt weird ordering it when I didn't have 10,000. I'm like,
That's fair. That's fair.
yeah. So it's ordered. It's on the way, and then probably next week or the week after will be the start of the full week of Dixie Cupness. So Dixie Cup outfit.
Absolutely love it. I think that does it. So Ravens win 35-14, a rout of the New York Giants. Lamar Jackson gets his Jackson 5. A great game, really, for pretty much anyone wearing purple. Feeling good going into Steelers week, a short week, so we will be back here next Saturday after the Ravens take on the Steelers at M&T Bank Stadium, potentially with division hopes on the line. That'll do it for this edition of Kevin and Zach Reacts. Hit that like and subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and we will see you next week. Chewies!